A modern orthodox teenager came to me with a problem. He didn't believe in the Oral Torah. Here's how I handle that conversation and the crucial lessons you can take away from these science-based tools that will enhance your life, whether you're talking to a child about faith, a spouse about a difficult topic, or a family member about a disagreement. This isn't about winning an argument. It's about saving a relationship when facts confront faith. After Yoni broached the subject, he also told me why he came to me. He was terrified to talk to his own rabbis because he was afraid that they would judge him, or worse, just dismiss his questions. And that put me on high alert. We live in an era where people are more sensitive than ever, where a single dismissive comment can cause real long-term damage, especially with our spouses or children. You don't just lose the argument, you lose the person. So what do you do in that make or break moment to ensure that the door always stays wide open? First, we have to find the question behind the question. When Yoni said, "I don't believe in the Oral Torah," his voice cracked. That told me a lot. This wasn't just intellectual, it was emotional. He wasn't rejecting tradition, he was drowning in it. The Talmud in Megillah 28 teaches that asking the right question at the right time can be more valuable than years of study. But here's what I've learned from both Torah and neuroscience. When beliefs are threatened, our amygdala, the brain's alarm system, hijacks our thinking. It's called cognitive dissonance, and it's literally painful. Yoni's brain was in survival mode. The question behind his question, am I still worthy if I doubt? I saw myself in him. 15 years ago, I stood my own test of faith of whether to completely change my life from being an atheist astrophysicist to Orthodox Jew. That's when I realized that this conversation had the potential to change both of us. But here's what nobody tells you about these moments. There's a dangerous trap waiting that almost destroyed everything. You start with a tool I call disciplined pause. When Yoni finished speaking, his eyes looking down in a subdued posture, every fiber of my being wanted to jump in with reassurances, but I forced myself to wait. 1 second, 2, 3. The silence felt eternal. In chapter 3 of Ethics of Our Fathers, it is written that silence is a fence for wisdom. But it's more than that. There's a principle from physics, entropy. Without deliberate input of energy, everything moves towards disorder. Conversations aren't the same. Without deliberate energy of active listening, they fall apart. But in that silence, something incredible happens. Professor Uri Hassan at Princeton discovered that during meaningful silence, our brains literally sync up, mirror neurons firing in harmony. Those 3 seconds of silence, that's when Yoni's defensive walls began to crumble. And that's when connection began. In that pause, I remembered my own moments of doubt and frustration while in yeshiva, sitting across one of the most respected rabbis in the community who agreed to meet with me through a mutual connection. He had given me the same gift, silence without judgment. Now I was passing it forward. I thanked Yoni for trusting me with this issue. His shoulders relaxed. For the first time in months, someone had heard his heart, not just his words. But here's where I almost made a critical mistake. I was about to share my own story of perseverance. Would it help or hurt? There's a hidden danger I call the empathy trap. Sometimes sharing your struggle can overwhelm someone who's already drowning. Before I reveal what happened next, if these insights are resonating with you, subscribe to my channel and sign up for my newsletter below. These conversations matter, and you deserve to be a part of them. Instead of launching into my story, I asked Yoni a question that changed everything. What if your doubts are not a flaw, but a natural part of your religious growth? He looked confused. I pulled out my laptop and I showed him how to navigate Chabad.org to find the Rambam's introduction to his Mishnah Torah. I told him that even the Rambam had to justify and defend the Oral Torah. If it were obvious, why would the most famous Jewish philosopher of all time need to write down such a beautiful and brilliant proof? This is where quantum physics meets psychology. The observer effect tells us that the very act of observing changes what we observe. But there's also psychological reactance. When we feel watched or judged, we shut down. But when I showed Yoni the website, I removed myself as observer. Now he was the academic examining the evidence. The Lubavitcher Rebbe often said that a teacher's role is to be a lamplighter by kindling the flame of another. By giving Yoni agency, I wasn't weakening his faith. I was letting him discover his own fire. Over the next few weeks, Yoni and I discussed the matter. Some days he came energized, having discovered connections he'd never seen. Other times he arrived frustrated, saying that the Rambam's logic wasn't connecting with him. The Talmud in Kedushin 30 describes learning as a battle where teacher and student become like enemies. But in the end, love. This volatility, what chaos theory calls strange attractors, isn't random. It's the pattern of growth. I have a saying for this. Volatility is vitality. It's a sign that they're engaged, they're wrestling, and that's exactly what we want. Each conversation was reshaping Yoni's spiritual trajectory. But to understand why this is true, we first need to internalize the lesson that patience is not passive. Ironically, it's actually an active force in connecting with others. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe taught that a soul can wait decades to fulfill its purpose. Every interaction plants seeds. You just don't know which one will bloom. What transformed Yoni and me comes down to 3 principles you can use today. 1. Master the disciplined pause. When someone shares something vulnerable, count to 3 in your head before responding. Fight entropy with internal silence. Let your mirror neurons sync. In that silence, connections grow. 2. Find the question behind the question. Listen for the emotion, not just the words. This is just as true for men as it is for women. When someone says, "I don't believe," they might mean, "I don't feel like I belong." Address the cognitive dissonance, not just the surface issue. And lastly, empower through partnership. Don't be the answer, be the study partner. Give resources, not sermons. Avoid triggering psychological reactance. As the observer effect shows, watching too closely changes the outcome. Step back and let growth happen. Try to use this 3-step framework this week. When your child challenges you, when your spouse disagrees, when a friend doubts, pause. Listen for the real question and empower rather than preach. And remember to share this video with a loved one. Until then, what's the biggest communication struggle you're facing right now? Share it in the comments below. What do you think you'll discover by yourself in the process? And if you made it this far, you'll love to see this other video on my channel. See you soon.